Beneil Dariush. What does he do now? The casualty of this weekend's fight that's going to do incredible numbers. I mean, if you're over at ESPN, you got to just be chomping at the bit. You're going to get Bobby Green versus Islam. The byproduct of this, what do you do with Dariush? That's a hard spot, guys. More complicated than you might think, because Dariush has won so damn many fights in a row. It has been so many years since he tasted defeat that I truly can't remember. I believe he's won 7 in a row. It could be 8. I believe he's gone 3 years undefeated. It could be 4. He's got such incredible success. This is a special guy. Now, he needed that breakthrough moment. He needed that moment in a main event, all eyes on me, the division, the promotion, and all of us staring at a performance, and that's what this represented. Benny versus Islam. And a lot of that wasn't because of Benny. Islam made his campaign early to be the number 1 contender. He had people like Daniel Cormier, who's got the power of the pulpit, voicing this to the masses. It was very effective. I'm sitting over here talking about, well, it's hard to deny. The guy's 15-1. Khabib says, right, Khabib's opinion matters. Khabib says this is the heir apparent to the throne, but he didn't get it. He didn't get the title fight, but he got Gaethje speaking up about it. Gaethje's at a press conference at Madison Square Garden with more media than a UFC has ever had, and Gaethje was not talking about Chandler. He was talking about Makhachev. The next night in attendance, Islam was not in the building, let alone on the card. The announce team was talking about Islam. So Islam was getting dividends on an investment that he had previously made because Islam was not afraid to be told no. Rejection's very tough in life, guys. It's not unique to athletes or unique to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Rejection's hard. A cold call, knocking on a door, having the door shut in your face, it's a hard thing to do. We don't want to do that. So we don't usually try. Now, Islam looked at it differently. I don't think that Islam thought for a second, even if he had the power of Daniel Cormier and an audience, you guys, that he was going to skip the line and be next to be in there with Charles Oliveira. I don't think he really thought that. I think Islam knew becoming a number 1 contender is a conversation. And the conversation needs to be started now. If you're going to shut doors in my face, shut them now. Not 3 and 4 matches down the road. It was very wise. That is one thing that Ali, the manager to Islam, does better than any other manager in this space. Ali will also promote. Ali knew full well Islam was very unlikely to be going right into a title fight. But he knew that that conversation was going to get pinged around, and the next time that question comes up, Islam's name is now one of the names on the table. So Benny is the topic of this conversation. What does Benny do? So Benny was in a beautiful spot. He's going to be main event. It's going to be ESPN. Islam looks like he's going to be the number 1 contender. Islam's beating up a whole bunch of guys in a row, but Benny's beating up just as many. So now they're going to go head-to-head, and it looks like whoever was going to come out of that would be on the tip of everybody's tongue to be the number 1 contender. I get that there's moving parts. I don't want to hear about it, but that's all you can do. All you can get is to be part of the conversation, and generally that gets narrowed down, figuratively, to 3 people. 3 people's names all get thrown out there. Who's it going to be? Okay. All you can do is make sure you're one of those 3. You can't do any better. Islam was doing that, and and Benny is Islam's partner, getting the same effect. So what does he do now? That's the question. Tough. It's a tough one. There's only so many options, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to study history, see what worked for somebody else, and then put yourself into one of those categories. So I'm going to ask it a 4th time, what does he do now? One weakness that Dariush has, and it's only one. This guy is such a good fighter. A number of people, including Dan Hooker, who was ranked number 5 in the world in that weight class. Nobody knows the weight class better than Dan Hooker. He's ranked number 5 in the world. He fights in nothing with co-main events and main events. He'd already been in there with one half of the battle, which was Islam. Dan Hooker picked Benny. A lot of people picked Benny. That was going to be Islam the favorite, but it was going to close from 3-1 where it opened and went down to 2.5-1. I would bet you DraftKings, if they were doing it right now, it'd probably still be 2-1. But 2-1 against Islam Makhachev, who is the heir apparent to the throne, according to the King Khabib, to only be a 2-1 favorite, that was a tight match. That's a good, tight, pick'em match. What do you do now? Can Benny get himself back to the main event? Right, if you can't get back to a number one contenders match, which you cannot do without advocating for yourself for it. If you can't do that, can you get back to the next best thing? Title fight being the best thing you can get. The next best thing is what Benny also had, which is a main event. Can he keep the main event spot? That's not a guarantee. That is also something done through advocacy. And Benny just doesn't do it. That's just not part of who Benny is. He's a competitor. He's an athlete. He's driven. He checks every box. He's a nice guy. He's a hard worker. He's a talent. I mean, he checks every single box. He has not checked the box of being a promoter that's going to grab a blowhorn and start talking about himself. He's just not. So what does he do? Now, conventional wisdom says that he make a call out for the first time ever, and he can even do it in polite Benny Dariush fashion to take on the winner of Islam versus Bobby Green. I don't love that. I don't hate it. The only one I hate is that we do nothing, which is what I fear Benny is going to do. I think Benny is going to do absolutely nothing. Get a phone call one day, somebody else tells him what he's going to do in his career, and like the guy is, he says, okay. Says, okay. The other side of the coin that does not get visited very often is to call for the loser. To say, I want whoever loses this fight, get whoever wins is going to go fight for the championship, but whoever doesn't win, that was supposed to be my fight. I was supposed to be in a main event. I was supposed to fight 5 rounds. I was supposed to be in there with Islam that now became Bobby. So now Bobby's got a problem with me, or Islam and I are going to finish what we already started. It's a story. It's not generally how it's done, but I don't hate it, particularly in this case, because it is realistic. If Bobby gets beat by Islam, Bobby's now in the same spot as Dariush, which is a main event fighter who didn't propel himself to the only next step, which is title fight. And he's going to be looking something to do, and keeping his standing as a main event fighter is going to be absolute paramount. So the story does work. It does work. We're going to be looking for something to do, but Benny's got to make it crystal clear. This is my fight. I did not hurt myself. I was in the room practicing and grinding, doing what you're supposed to do to prepare for battle. I was doing what I was supposed to do, where I was supposed to do it, with who I was supposed to be doing it with. I will not allow myself to stumble or be punished. And you're going to have a lot of people that go, yeah, I agree. A lot of people are going to say, I agree. And it's always the move. It's not just what's next and what's in front of you. This sport works in a different way. What's coming up? I will see guys lose in a title fight, get an interview, and not set something up for themselves. In fact, I've only seen in history one guy ever smart enough to have something to say in defeat. It was Rampage. Rampage Jackson fought Jon Jones. Huge fight at the time. Rampage comes in second, and when they interview him, he touched on Jon. He just used that as a bridge to get to the next topic, which is what's next, and he called out Shogun. And everybody listen, go, yeah, I want to see Rampage and Shogun. Let's get those guys together. All of a sudden, he goes to the press conference, post-fight press conference. They're asking him questions, not about what already happened, what's going to happen next, which was Shogun, because it's conversation Rampage in defeat was smart enough to bring up. Very good move. You got to be the boss even after a loss. You have to be prepared for all outcomes. You have to realistically know where your standing is. And Benny's been in the media. This was a big fight. Benny versus Islam is as big of a fight as I have seen given to us by the partnership between UFC and ESPN that I can remember. I think it's number one for me, for anticipation, for looking forward to this, to not really knowing what's going to happen, for having a true number one contenders match, which we've been told ahead of time, for knowing exactly what we're going to get. And all we got to do is turn the TV on. It was great, but Benny's got to fight for that spot. Benny, to get to that spot, took 4 years, and he had to beat 7 people and maybe even 8. To get back to that spot, is he going to have to just repeat history? He's going to have to go another 4 years and beat another 7 people and possibly 8? Or can he just speak up and take a spot? It's hard. It's not a skill that Benny has. But it is a power that we have. We, the audience, does decide who fights last. And we, the audience, does decide what's on the line. Benny's never asked anybody for anything. Benny's not asking you for something now. I'm asking you on behalf of Benny. He put in the work. He put in the sacrifice. He was where he's supposed to be, doing what he was supposed to be doing with who he was supposed to be doing it with. Now we got to defend him. We got to keep that spot. I do not hate the story that the winner of Islam Bobby goes on to fight for a world championship. I equally don't hate the story that whoever comes up with the silver medal stays in a main event and takes on the guy that was originally planning to be there, named Benny Dariush.